Hello everyone and welcome back to Another Mother, a parenting podcast by My Spring Harvest with me, Emma Borquaye. We are now 3 episodes in and I'm really loving it. If this is the first time that you are listening, then hello, welcome. I'm Emma, as I've just said. I am a mum of a 3-year-old boy called Ezra and I've got a baby girl called Hallie, and I am basically on a quest to get my parenting questions answered by some of the best people that I know. So far, the conversations have been really fun and I've been learning so much. So if you have listened to the previous episodes, I hope you have learnt stuff too, or you've just enjoyed these conversations. But I am so excited about today's episode because not only am I speaking to somebody that I've looked up to for a really long time, but I get to go to their house. So if you're somebody that watches this podcast on YouTube rather than just the audio version, you're going to get a little change of scenery from my usual space in a moment. And that's a point actually for anybody who is listening now and you didn't know that you can watch it as a video as well, then head over to YouTube and just watch now. I'm waving at you right now. Hello, everybody. I never look right at the camera. I actually love watching stuff on YouTube, especially when I'm doing some chores like cleaning or clearing out a wardrobe. It makes me feel like I've got a little friend in the room with me. So if you're doing some chores and you need a companion, then I am here, guys. I'm right here on YouTube and I'm waving at you. Okay? Anyway, back to introducing the guests. Sorry, that was real sidetrack. Today, I get to speak to Anna Smith, who is like legendary mother status, in my opinion. She is married to singer-songwriter Martin Smith, and together they've got 6 children, some of whom are now adults, and I think the youngest is in their teen years. So I really see Anna as someone who has gone ahead and walked this motherhood path for a long time, and she's got so much wisdom to share. I actually remember reading her book, Meet Mrs. Smith, shortly after I'd got married nearly 8 years ago, because I just thought, oh, maybe I could get a bit of insight in what it's like being married to a touring musician. But I remember actually reading the book and then being really impacted by her perspective and her approach on motherhood and stories of how they really had a passion to have an open home. So she's always been somebody that I would love to sit down and chat to. So I am really pleased that I had this opportunity, and I hope that this conversation is one that brings you comfort wherever you find yourself today. Hello, Anna.
Hello.
And welcome to the Another Mother podcast.
Amazing. Thank you for inviting me. I feel incredibly privileged.
It's very good to have you. You are like, in my eyes, you're the OG mother because you've got kids of all different ages. How many children do you have in total?
6.
6 children. Okay, so you've got 6 kids and they range. What are the age ranges?
Yes. So Ellie, my eldest, being 25 and Mary's 15.
Okay, so
yes, the youngest.
10 years. So that's actually quite a short span of time.
Yeah, 2
to have
years
6
generally between all
kids.
of them. Yeah.
Okay, 2-year age gap. I've gone for the 3-year age gap.
Sensible.
Do you think?
Yes.
Do you?
No, well, swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Like there are benefits to having children quite close together, but also I understand why people wait a little bit as well. So
yes.
No, it's all good.
Did you always know that you wanted to have so many kids? Well, it's not so many kids, but did you always know that you wanted to have a big family?
I think I probably knew I would love to have had more than maybe 2 or 3.
Okay.
I'm one of 5 and I loved being part of a big family.
Okay.
Martin's one of 4. So I think, and I had my youngest brother Ben when I was 13. So I kind of grew up with a baby in the house, which I absolutely loved. So I suppose I always wanted lots of people in there, lots of children, and I loved it.
Oh, yeah, and we are now in your very beautiful home. It's so lovely. Thank you for having me here.
No,
I feel like I'm on like a
great.
little podcast tour. So I'm usually just sat in the little office at the end of our garden.
Aww.
So it's nice to be out and about here in your lovely
it's
house.
lovely to have you.
But it's so beautiful. Like as soon as you walk in your house, you can feel the warmth. You can feel like you put so much intention into your home, not just the decor, but like when you meet all of your children as well, and you see your family together as a whole, there's like a real I would say there's a real strong like culture among you. Is that something that you've been intentional about, like setting as we've got a culture for our family, or we've got principles or values that we as a family kind of want to live by?
A great question. I don't think I've ever consciously thought of that. I think, as I said, growing up with my parents definitely had like an open house kind of value. And I just knew that to be one, that it was fun. You never quite knew who was going to be sitting around your dinner table, or when you got back from school, who was going to be there. But also I think having more people around, I think I'm a nicer person as well. I think I love that open home, and like it just makes me I think I react nicer. I think I'm just generally probably a little bit of a better person when there's more people around. And I think the children do as well. And so that culture of open home, who wants to come over, it can be exhausting, and there are definitely times where you just need to be you as a unit. But I personally do love having an open home.
Yeah, because it's not even just the fact that you've got you and Martin and your 6 children. It's that you're always very open to having friends over, family, your kids' friends over. Is there ever a time when you're like, oh my gosh, there's too many people? Or is it just there's never too many?
Probably not me. There's never too many. I love having people over. But I do also, some of my children and Martin at times are more introverted. And I've probably had to learn the hard way that, to have a few people around the table and have those one-to-ones, or maybe some deeper conversations that you can't have with lots of people, are super valuable as well. And I've probably learnt that how important that is through, maybe getting it wrong sometimes. And so I think swapping up is really good, having an open home, but also realising that just when there's a few people here, or just even a few children, the special times you can have with them. So a bit of all.
Yeah, I saw this funny quote recently that was like, why is it that introverted people are always being told to just like get out there and talk? Why is it not the extroverts being told to just be quiet for a minute?
True. Absolutely true. And I get that. I do understand that. And I think after COVID, for me in particular, which I was really shocked about, I struggled with having lots of people again, and it took me a little while. I became probably quite introverted and like quite liked my own safe space. So even having people after that season, I think it's a real thing. I think I understand, how people can drain you, but also how much life they can give you. So.
Yeah. And also, I guess among your having 6 children, everybody has different personalities. Everybody's so unique. And how do you kind of adapt to that? Because I think it's so easy for us to be like, this is me, this is who I am. And sometimes it's even hard for us to get to know ourselves, but then to get to know 6 other lives and adjust accordingly to make sure everybody feels seen and heard and valued, or served in the way that they need to be. When did you kind of start to see different personalities, I guess, come through? Is there like an age? Are you like they're born that way? Like when you've got a baby, do you know, okay, I think they're going to be like this?
Yeah.
Or is it like through their teen years you see it come out more?
I think all of it. And at different stages you can see, I think if you look out for those signs, you can, and to just, go with them. Go with, I think like what you touched on a bit earlier of, like just sensing that child maybe needs a bit of a space away from lots of people. You can facilitate that by finding a little corner in a book. They don't have to feel overwhelmed because they should be with their siblings and lots of other people in the room. I think it's spotting the child sometimes. One of the biggest things I ever learned, I think my incredible mum taught me it, is that it's not always the child that screams the loudest that should get the most attention. And I think just those few little things about, sometimes it is the quiet one that you just need to look out for a bit more, ask them a few questions, spend some time. So I think it is like adapting to each child and what their needs are, and that can change. When they're younger, you can see that maybe one just loves to be outside all the time, digging in the garden, and so therefore your life is spent outside doing that. Whereas as they get older, I think it swaps up definitely in the teenage years where they are a bit more introverted. They don't want to tell you as much. And so having a house full of other people that maybe they will want to go and speak to that person over there and chat with them. And I just think it's different seasons and just learning to adapt with each child to what that season is and talking to them about that, communicating. I think it's again, you learn through sometimes getting it wrong, and I often learn through getting it wrong, and having that conversation with them now, and even now, a lot of them are, some of them are married, and past those teenage years, we still chat about the hard times that they had when they were a teenager and what I could have done better.
Oh, wow.
Which I really love those conversations because I've still got teenagers as well. So
how do you how do you create that environment of them even feeling comfortable to say to you like, oh, this, you could have done this better?
I think I ask. I
Really?
think keep
Okay.
that open conversation of, not that you should have it all together, but then if you ask those questions and they reply, you can say, well, actually, this is why I did that. You can have that conversation of, oh, that's really interesting that you felt that because this is what I was thinking you were going through. So it's just, I guess, just being really honest about that season when maybe they didn't feel they could talk to you and what was going on with both of you. So it's that conversation, saying sorry about the mistakes, moving on to the next. And I don't carry things very heavily. I am very quick to apologize and move on and forgive, and those things, I'm very grateful, come quite easily to me.
Yeah, that's so good. This is a bit of an unofficial question
Love
because
that.
it just popped to my mind. But
Yeah.
I noticed that recently Ezra started telling like little fibs.
Oh, brilliant.
So he's only 3. It's been since we've had Hallie. He'll say, oh, Hallie did it about something. Well, obviously Hallie can't even move, so she did not like tip the chair over and get out all the pens and draw on the sofa, and then he kind of says it with a smile, and then I'm like, I don't know how much to be like, don't lie.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
like, I don't know how seriously to take it at this age,
Yeah.
to use it as a teaching moment, or is it just like, do you know what, kids just lie?
I think you can do both. I think, and at different times, and it depends what it is, I think. But at this age, at 3, they're just pushing your, what's mum going to do if I say this? What's her reaction going to be? So it's about, I don't know, they're pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
And they do that throughout life. They continually do it. And it's just working out the things that are important to you and the things, I call them the negotiables and the non-negotiables. Those are the things that I kind of steer my life around. And so I think at 3 years old, where you're just trying to, and you can just say, do you think that Hallie could have done that? Just, and even with you with a smile on your face, you're like, so he knows that and you know what each other are doing. And I think just keeping that openness and that conversation, just it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful that he wants to have a conversation with you and see what you say. It's just really sweet.
That's a nice perspective to see it as just, like him in a way wanting to connect or wanting to explore this relationship more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, we can get a bit caught up on what's a teaching moment, what should I discipline him here, should I not? But actually, like you said, it should just kind of be through relationship and seeing that as a positive.
And there are other times where you think, no, do you know what? You're pushing it.
Yeah.
And I need to discipline here. And then other times, so I think you just feel the moment and just work out what's going to be destructive for him going into his next season. Is this something that I need to crack down on a bit more because it's getting, more and worse and the lies are getting worse.
More elaborate.
More elaborate. So you just work with that, don't you?
Yeah, no, definitely. So I think this time round, so obviously I had Ezra 3 years ago, and then I've had Hallie now 5 months ago. And I think I've found the postpartum phase, which I don't really know technically how long that is meant to be.
No.
Because I feel like initially they kind of say, oh yeah, it's the first, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks or something. And then I saw this thing the other day that said you're actually in postpartum for 7 years.
Wow.
And then there was something where it's like, it's actually 2 years. And so I guess, I don't know, maybe it's just up to the individual to work out how they feel, how they're adjusting. But I think I found it harder this time to get back to feeling like me. I don't know if it's because I've got a 3-year-old as well. So it's that you're constantly thinking of others. So maybe I'm not really doing the things that make me feel like myself again or whatever. But then I also don't want to feel like I'm missing the like magic of these baby days by feeling so in my head about like, oh wait, how can I get back to me again? Because is it really about that? Like, is it about just being present?
I remember all of those. It's almost like a bit of a brain fog, lonely sees. It's really, all you know is you're not on your game. You know that you're not, the rug's being pulled. You don't always know why, and you don't know how long it's going to be for. And I just think it's an adjusting phase from, I remember feeling it from having my first, feeling like, oh, life's never going to be same again. And then with your second, you kind of go into this more, I don't know, baby world thing of saying goodbye to another part of you. I can't quite work it out. And I think that it's a really tough transition. And I think that it's saying goodbye. It's a bit of a grieving of something. And I know that for lots of people, not for everybody, not everybody feels it, but I know that is a real thing. Yeah. And I think it's really important to be honest, like you just have been, Emma. I think that's half of it. Yeah. Is to realise that you know your feelings, because I think a lot of the time people don't. They're not aware of why they feel or if they feel. And so I think half of it is knowing that you do. And then I think it's about giving yourself a bit of grace. Yeah. And a bit more kind. Be a bit more kind to yourself.
What does that kind of look like? Like giving yourself grace or like being kind to yourself?
I think it's about being aware of how you're feeling each day, and doing as much or as little as you can. I think it's about talking to people. I think it's about actually doing stuff for other people. I think it's about being grateful, and I think it's about serving, and I think it is about I think it's about just being really true to who you are, and not having to put on a face or having to be anything other than that. Yeah. And that, I know that in that season is really tough.
Yeah. And I think especially as well now with social media and stuff like that, you look at all the other ways that everybody else is doing it, and then you think, oh, okay, wait, they do it like this, so does that mean I'm doing it wrong? Yeah. And you kind of compare yourself a bit too much sometimes, which isn't helpful.
So true. And I think, when I was younger, we didn't, the things that were different were we didn't have phones. Yeah. When I was first a mother, so I didn't have, or social media. So we didn't have those distractions or the comparisons to that degree. It was very much, for me, it was just who I was meeting at the school or in the nursery. That was it. And so my head and my heart and my mind just didn't have to cope with those things. It was more to do with what am I going to cook for dinner tonight, and, getting through with my child. So I think that's definitely a thing that's changed since I was a mum, and I think it is harder. Yeah. It's just very different, isn't it? I guess. Yes. And because you're seeing Ellie now, your oldest daughter, be a mum. Yeah, incredible mum.
It must be, what is that like for you?
Yeah,
seeing someone that you've raised now raising another human, you're like, what?
Yes. And she is phenomenal. She is an incredible mum. So I'm incredibly proud of her and Tom, and all that they're doing. It is crazy though, because it still feels like she's my baby. Having a baby is just, oh my god. Yeah. And I think I find it hard because I so love Maccabee and want to be like, often I overstep, and Ellie is like, Mum, he's not yours, he's mine. And so you just get so carried away in just being this other role, which I'm learning how to do and trying to do the best I can.
Yeah, it's so interesting though as well, isn't it? Because it's like you've gone through the whole season of having babies and toddlers and young children, and then now your children are into teen years and adult years, and then you actually go back full circle again.
Yes.
And now you get to be, are you grandma or nanny?
I'm Granna.
Granna. I love that.
Granna. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
So now
I
you
love
get to be
it.
Granna.
Yeah, I'm just loving every single moment I have with him. And yeah, Ellie and Tom, as I said, are incredible. And I'm very privileged to be a part of being a Granna and, you know, getting to love on him and, you know, be around him and them. So, no, just loving it.
Oh, I love that for you.
It is fun.
So, as many people will know, Martin Smith is your husband, and he's had quite a big career, still has got quite a big career.
Yeah.
And especially during the years of your children being young and having children, having babies, that his career was very busy at that time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was crazy. It was really busy.
How was that for you?
It was tough. And looking back and I'm not quite sure how that season it was quite crazy. But you know, one of the things, well, there was loads of things that helped me through, but one of the main things is knowing we were in it together and that this was our choice. This was not his choice, but our choice. And that is definitely number one thing, that we were in it together. So it was tough. It was tough for him to go away and leave his children.
Yeah.
And not everybody thinks like that either. But there were milestones that he missed because he wasn't there. But also it was hard for me, obviously, being up at night and when the children got ill, he wasn't around. So, yeah, but ultimately we knew that what Martin was doing by being away was a sacrifice, but that it was one that we both felt we were being obedient in it. So I think that's definitely number one. The other things that really helped me through that really, you know, obviously when they're super young, it's quite hands-on and very physical, was just having a community. Ours was church. That we went to was just unbelievable. Having that people around was really, really helpful. And I think having, you know, my parents around and Martin's parents and my brothers and sisters, we're all part of a community where we kind of helped each other out, which was phenomenal. And I think that church was something that, you know, even though it was tough to get up on a Sunday and get all the children there, it was, and even, you know, I didn't used to be able to listen to much or take on board, but that discipline, I think, for us as a family was one that I think was really important. Looking back, I think that was really good, and yeah, without that, I think I would have really struggled.
Yeah, because for how long at a time would Martin be away for?
Yeah, they had a rule as a band. It was like a 10-day rule. Okay. So they were only away for 10 days and then come back. But then they would often go again quite quickly. So
after
that was
like a day.
After a day. Like I remember like some of the hard moments of he would go and then he'd come back and then he would be trying to help me out feeding one of the children breakfast. And I'll be like, they don't have Weetabix anymore. They've got, you know, onto the next... I don't know what it would be, like they're in Cheerios now, like, and he would be trying to help me out, but you know, as you know, with having small children, it often swapped up quite a bit, and things that they like one minute they really didn't like the next. So it was busy and it was hard, and there were times I remember feeling incredibly lonely and you know, God, what am I doing with my life? What is this all about? And that those were really hard moments, and in those times I would call somebody, phone a friend, get out the house. That was one of the things that I really believe in, is at least once a day getting out the house, even if it's to walk around the block, just to get your head and your heart and fresh air, you know, whatever the weather, just to get out. That was definitely something that I was going to do every day. But no, there were hard times, but there were some amazing times, and maybe I just choose to remember the amazing times a bit more, because there were loads of them.
Yeah. And you see how you said that one of the important things was for you to feel like you're in it together. When you are in it together, but you're doing very different roles. So for example, you're very hands-on at home with all the kids, and then Martin is on a stage somewhere the other side of the world. Is there like, how do you find unity in that?
Yeah.
Or is it just like an overall conversation of like, we've decided that we're going to do this, so whatever comes our way in each of our roles, we're just going to embrace it?
Yes, a bit of both.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit of both. And definitely there were times where he would call me and say, I've just had this incredible day. And I just would want to I didn't put the phone down, but I would just be like, great.
Stressed.
I'm so pleased you're having a great time. You know, if only you knew what was going on back here, you know, but that wasn't the moment to be reacting like that. But there were definite moments where I was really cross and really upset that he was, you know, having the limelight and doing all these amazing things, and life wasn't always great at home. So those were tough moments and real moments. But like you said, when you are on slightly different pages, when you had to kind of find, when he came back, a place where you would both be on the same page. And often for me, that meant going for a walk in the woods or getting out again, breathing, and just being. I'm definitely a verbal processor.
Yeah,
so
same.
Are you?
Love words.
Yeah, love words. So I would definitely have to go for a long walk, and I would have to say all of my feelings.
Yeah.
I would have to tell him absolutely everything. I can't hide. I can't pretend. So even though I wouldn't often say it on the phone, when he got home, I'm afraid all of that came out, and it often was a bit messy. We'd often have a bit of an argument before he left, and definitely have an argument when he came home. It was kind of like
the bookends.
The bookends were just a bit stressful.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I spoke about it and he was able to say, you know, we then kind of got onto the same page and did the next season. So that's kind of how it worked. Bit messy.
Yeah.
But
well, yeah, I think similarly to you, I'm definitely an external processor, but I found that sometimes it makes it hard for me to like sit with feelings of discomfort or to process them away by myself.
Yes.
So then I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to tell Isaac, I need to get this out, because I need to work out how I'm feeling. But I've realized that sometimes it is actually necessary to be in hard situations, and life isn't always just going to be easy. It's not always just going to be smooth, and there are lessons to be learnt through the hard. But I still do find it really hard, like in the moment, to tell myself that and to not just try and worm myself out of it.
I just think you learn. It's something you learn. It's something you learn to just know that this isn't the moment to say it. This isn't the moment. But it's not. You will say it, and it's important to say it. But timing is really crucial. And down a phone or on FaceTime, whatever, is just not often the best way of communicating at that time. I think definitely when they get home, when you both can have a conversation that is, just really real.
Yeah.
It's important.
Another unofficial question, but
love it.
If any of these are you're like, no,
no, I'm loving it.
But is there anything, so with you being at home, one of the things for me I realize is that I really like it when people say thank you. But when you're at home with kids, they don't say thank you.
No.
Especially when they can't talk. But it can feel a bit difficult compared to if you've come from kind of working life. For example, I'll be sending emails and stuff like that, and you don't realize like how many times a day somebody says thank you to you. They say like, oh, thanks for sending that document, or thanks for this, thanks for that. So you're constantly getting affirmed that you're doing a good job, Whereas when you're at home, you don't get that affirmation of like you're doing a good job. So was there ever things that, I don't know, that Martin did that made you feel affirmed? Maybe if there's any dads listening to this.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
That things that are actually, because it's hard to put into words what it is that you need sometimes, or like how you want to feel appreciated. Because you're like, oh, I just want to feel appreciated. And they're like, I do appreciate you. And you're like, What?
No.
Tell me.
Tell me then.
So yeah, is there anything that Martin did that you were like, oh yeah,
He's
that's
very good at affirming me. He knows, and I think this is what helped me keep going. He knew that he couldn't do what he was doing without me.
Okay.
And if he didn't tell me, I would remind him. Like, definitely this is a two-way thing. You would not be able to be doing what you're doing if I wasn't doing what I was doing. And he is very good at, he would definitely affirm that in me, which was great. But there were times where I think I probably needed more, like affirmation.
Yeah.
Than he could even give me, because I just think the overload of the stuff that he wasn't seeing was so much that I think I had to find a place where I needed to find God, his affirmation for me.
Yeah.
So I needed my Heavenly Father to affirm that in me rather than looking to Martin. And actually that has been part of my faith journey, is knowing that Martin is going to mess up. He's not going to get it right. He's going to not say the right thing at the right time. And his heart is good and he's meaning well. But actually, I need to look to my Heavenly Father, who sees everything. He sees the small detail and the thing that I do that kind of pushes me over the edge, but I'm going to do it because I know it's right. And I get such a... I enjoy that secret place.
Wow.
I enjoy that place where only my Heavenly Father sees. Only he knows those sacrifices that I've made. And I have found that joy in that. I'm not probably describing that very well, but I think I've learned that that's all I need.
Yeah.
Is what he thinks of me and what he sees. And that has really, really helped me. That's really, over the years, I think that's all I need is his approval. Me knowing that I'm in the right place and I'm being obedient, and I feel his smile.
Yeah.
I feel his smile, and that keeps me going.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. And it's almost like one of those things that our soul is so thirsty for, and we can't live without it. Almost like we can't thrive without like kind of knowing God. And it's one of those things in maybe the earlier years with young children, or maybe even with older children too, because I don't know what it's like when you get there, but it's quite hard to sometimes carve out the space and the time to speak to God and have those moments, have those quiet moments. Was there any kind of thing or like routines or habits that you had to protect that kind of relationship with God and your quiet time and your me time even?
Yeah, I think the quiet time and the me time kind of went out the window quite a long time ago. And I think with that comes a lot of guilt, comes a lot of, well, how am I going to get this moment now? Like, what does this look like? And so I think there is a grieving again part of that, of like, well, I can't even have a quiet time anymore. I can literally not, I can't even have a shower, let alone a quiet time. How does this work? So very early on, I just said to God, like, this isn't working. I don't know how to do this relationship when I can't have this. And so I think I've just asked him to be in my everything and just like not have a quiet time or a moment. But just whenever that happens, I'm just aware of his presence in everything, to do with, who to speak to at the school gates, to do with, I don't know, the most insignificant things sometimes. But just God, be in my everything. Be in who I need to call today. Be in, and I put worship music on. I love having music on in the house continually. So even that, I love worshipping as I'm doing a bit of housework, as I'm doing a bit of cleaning. Feel your surroundings. In the car, I like to shout in tongues. That is something that I do. It's a little bit random, a bit weird.
I love that.
It's after I've dropped Mary off from school. She wouldn't really appreciate that, I don't think. But, it's just carving out times. I'm not going to be able to do as much. But now as I've gotten older, it's definitely seasonal. When I had young children, it was just really tough and to be able to get that time. But now it's definitely, I do my word of the day every morning. I always do read a scripture before you look at the phone. It's that kind of like those sort of things that have really helped me is, you know, how do I want to start my day? And then praying for people throughout the day, you know, just people that I just think about, just pray for them in my everyday, and whoever's with me or in the car, you know, let's just pray for this. So it's definitely become more of a lifestyle, God, you know, seeing God in everything rather than a separate time. And then when I do get those times, it's just beautiful. But I just know it's seasonal.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing we can do is to feel guilty and feel like we're never doing enough as mums, as Christians. You know, you just always think there's somebody that's doing a lot better than you. And, you know, and I just think, no, just do what you can. And your Heavenly Father sees your heart.
Yeah.
And he knows, you know, what's going on.
I'm just interrupting the episode very quickly to say that one of the things that Anna mentioned is her love of having worship music playing in the home. So I thought it could be really nice to put together a little playlist for you wonderful listeners in case you're stuck for ideas and you want that music in your home too. So I have included a link to a playlist in my latest article on myspringharvest.org. So to check it out, just go over to myspringharvest.org, create a free account, and you'll be able to see the article, get the link to the Spotify playlist, and you'll also get access to so many other incredible resources and pieces of content that I think will be really useful to you on your parenting and faith journey. So head over to myspringharvest.org now and enjoy listening to the playlist. Okay, let's go back to the conversation with Anna. Aside from just being, well, not even just, but aside from being at home with your children and raising them and just pouring everything you have into that, your world hasn't seemed to shrink the way that you would think it might, but instead it feels like your world expanded. And then you went on to write a book, and you do a lot of charity work, don't you, with the Safe Haven Women's project and stuff. So how have you kind of worked out when is the right time to pursue other things, or how you even navigate finding extra time to serve even when you're already serving so many people within your home?
I think that's it. And I think, again, probably by getting it wrong, you know, by doing too much and then thinking I've got to pull back on something. But also I think continually seeing, even when the children were little and it was chaotic, I could make a dinner and just make a bit extra and give that to somebody. So when you're talking about serving or, you know, being super busy, I think whatever you're doing, I think do it to the best you possibly can. So if that is being at home, well, who else's children can you have while you're at home, or how can you help your community with what you're doing? So I think you know, don't limit yourself. And that's always helped me with expanding my world, whatever season I'm in, is to think, how can I do this? How can I help more people, and how can I do a bit more? And again, sometimes when I was super overloaded, I knew to bring it in a bit and just think, do you know what, we're not going to invite the whole of the school back for dinner today. We're going to just have a quiet one and snuggle up on the sofa, and that's beautiful as well. And just knowing the seasons that you're in and the pressures that you're under. Some people are under a lot of stress with home life being tricky, or, you know, living in all sorts of different scenarios. And I just think for lots of different people, we all have different battles, but it's also seasonal, and just do the best you can with what you've got in the season you're in. Yeah.
It's so helpful to speak to you because you've got that view of, you've been through so many different seasons that you know that not everything lasts forever.
Absolutely.
And so it's okay to just like not put the pressure on. Not every season has to be everything and you have to be at the top of your game all the time.
So true. And there's really tough seasons that feel like they last forever. I remember a season where one of my children just wouldn't go to sleep, and it was exhausting. Like, she would walk down the stairs 20-30 times every evening.
Oh my God.
And I would be like beside myself, like not knowing how I was going to get her to bed. And that season felt like forever, but it was I mean, it was like quite a few years. But
years?
Yes,
Oh my God.
It was quite a long time. And still now she's a little night owl. But, it's just knowing how to best deal with that every single night. You knew it was coming. And how am I going to deal with it tonight? What are the, I'd look up, I'd ask people, help me in this season. I think, again, that was another thing I would probably choose to do a bit differently. I think I would want to be a bit more vulnerable. I think I felt like I had to have it together because I had so many. And I think being vulnerable and saying, actually, I'm really struggling with this. Has anybody else got any ideas? I think I would do more of that.
Yeah.
Because I think there were some really tough seasons that I should have just opened up my life a little bit more and been a bit more vulnerable. But, again, you learn, don't you? I'm now being vulnerable at, teenage years, and it's just different seasons. You learn so much.
Yeah, you learn as you go, and you are a fountain of wisdom now. So
I'm not sure about that.
You'll be getting hundreds of people throwing their questions at you. So in one of the earlier episodes of the podcast, I asked one of our guests, which is actually my husband, Isaac, if he had a question that he would ever want to ask another mother or father. Mm-hmm. And his question, I'm going to read it so that I don't mess it up.
Brilliant.
But his question was, if both parents have some kind of purpose that they would like to fulfill through their working life, is it ever possible to find a perfect balance between home, family, and work? Or is it just a case of being aware of the different seasons of life?
Oh,
it's a big question.
That's a huge question, isn't it?
So we could tackle it in two, maybe. Is it ever possible to find a perfect balance between home, like family, and work?
If there is, I would really be interested in what that was. I don't know. I don't know whether there is a perfect. There probably is a perfect balance. Between different people, if you see what I mean. Like, I don't think it's the same for everybody, but there probably is a perfect balance that works for a couple. I'm just not sure it's the same for everyone.
Yeah.
I think that's how I'd answer that.
Do you kind of work out if you have like, what's the word? Like things that you want for your family or priorities for your family?
Yeah.
So then you're like, these are the things that we have to hit.
Yes.
And then anything else is like, anything goes, or do you just
I don't think I've ever I think everything has got to be up to I like living like, okay, if God asks us to like swap that up, how would that look? I like living like that. I like living on the edge a little bit of, okay, God, if you took that away, or if that was changed up, or you asked that of us, how would we cope with that? How would we do that as a family, or what would that look like? And how would Martin cope with that? And how would I deal with that? I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. Okay. And then the second part of the question is, it's kind of the same thing, really. Is it just a case of being aware of the different seasons of life?
I think that's true. I think it is being aware of the different seasons. There's more things, I think, as my children have got older, I feel like I can do whereas when they were younger, I just think it was so overwhelming and so full on physically and mentally. I'm not sure I could have gone there.
Yeah.
So I think it definitely changes within seasons, which is great.
Yeah. No, it is. It is fantastic. Yeah. And you have 6 incredible children now, some of who are married, are just fully fledged adults. How does that actually feel for you now? Yeah. Being like, I raised these children. Like, do you have a word of encouragement before we close?
No,
for mums who are in the thick of it right now, and they're just like, I want to look back one day and be like, wow, I'm so proud of my kids and proud of myself for raising them the way I have.
Yeah, I just think keep going. Remember the amazing things that you did and the sacrifices and yeah, I mean, they're their own people. I look at them as they've made some amazing choices themselves, and if I've helped them in any way to make incredible choices by anything that I've done, that's amazing. But to be honest with you, I just think they're incredible because they've just chosen to just make good choices. So yeah, I'm really proud of them.
Aww. And I'm sure they're proud of you too, as their mum.
Thank you.
But no, thank you so much for all of your wisdom and just sharing so openly and vulnerably was one of your goals.
You. No.
But no, yeah, we really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to Another Mother. Don't forget to subscribe for future episodes, and we would absolutely love your help in spreading the word about this podcast. So please do share it with your friends, share it with other parents, other mums that you may know, mums to be, parents to be, just anybody that you think might enjoy it. Thank you.